Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I've been making my Mosaic Granny Square. This is a very old whip, which is a work in progress for those that don't know. I've been making this blanket since, well, longer than I actually can remember that I've been doing it. It became lost. I started doing it and then I mislaid it. Then I found it eventually, and by that time I'd kind of forgotten what size hook I'd used and moved on to other projects, and it just got put to one side, and I always intended to finish it off. So a little while ago I was showing it on one of my live streams on my blog, and quite a lot of people decided they would like me to do a tutorial that shows how to do it. Now this is the blanket. I haven't really done very much of it. It was a scrap yarn project, so it was all different colours, but if you were to just make it in one colour scheme it would be really kind of effective. But I was just using up lots and lots of scraps of colours where I'd made lots of projects in the past. So these are the ones that I've sewn together, and I was just doing it with a whip stitch, but I've made quite a lot, and they all have two colours in common. They start with an ivory centre and they end in black, and that's really the only two colours that are consistent. But the way I've done it is I've used, for my two colours that I'm making in this square, I've used a light one and a dark one, or a light one and a bright one, so that it kind of graduates the colour and makes it a kind of a starburst effect. So it always starting with the ivory. I didn't want to do white, I thought that was a little bit too bright, but I just graduated the colours out. And you can use any colour scheme, but as I said, if you had lots and lots of the same yarn, or you had yarn specifically for it, it would look really effective, just a blanket of all the one colours scheme. But I just decided to get rid of all of my scraps, and well, I had a lot of scraps over the years. So I'm going to show you how to make this. Now, as I said, I did actually forget what size hook I'd used and kind of the things I was doing. So I got together some yarn and had a little practice, and I made this one. So this showed me that for this one I've used the wrong size hook because it's more holey, and I did chains where I shouldn't have done them. So I kind of now know what I'm doing with it, but I made this one to kind of practice. So for it then, I'm using a DK weight yarn, and this is my ivory. I've got the other ivory somewhere, but it's in a bag with all the colours, so I'm going to use this one. So that's the ivory, and I've got my black yarn here, so I've got this one I'm using it anyway, and I'm going to use just a little bit of this rosy coloured pink and this light pink, and I'm going to show you how to make it with those colours. They're all DK weight. You can use any yarn you like, as long as you use the corresponding crochet hook for that yarn, then everything should be fine. But for this I'm using a 4.5mm, and I've got a pair of scissors handy. You will need a darning needle, but I've got that in my pot. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You'll be informed when there are new videos, and there are rather a lot of them. This will also be a left-handed tutorial, so if you happen to be in that one, I will put a link straight away to the right-handed one if that's the one you need. And in the right-handed one there'll be a link to the left, so I'm always going to put that in. Some of my older ones don't have it, but all of the new ones will have a link that goes from one to the other. So for this then, we start with a slip knot, and you can make your slip knot however you normally do, and I just usually wiggle my hook around and make my slip knot. And we're going to start with 4 chain, and to do that is just yarn over and pull through the loop that's on the hook, and we do that 4 times. and then I'm going to join that into a ring by slip stitching into the very first stitch, and that's just yarning over and pulling through both. So we've got this little tiny circle, but it will get bigger as we work into it. Now, to get me up to the correct height for my first stitch, I'm going to do 2 chain, and the stitch I'm going to use is a UK treble, which is a US double. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the center of my little circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. I have 3, so I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. I'll show you one more time slowly. So those 2 chain count as my first, so I've got 2 and I need 3, so I'm going to yarn over into the center, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So then I'm going to have, there's my cluster of 3, so I'm going to do 1 chain, and now into this ring I'm going to do that 3 more times. So I'm going to yarn over and do 3 more for my next little cluster. I'll speed up. If I go ahead, then just, if you need to, press the pause and catch up with me. Now I'm going to do another chain because I've got a second lot of 3. And I'm working over my tail as I go. Some of this you can't work over the tail, so any tails you can work over is a bonus. So my last cluster, and I'm going to end it slightly differently. So I'm going to do my 3 UK trebles, which is US double crochet, and I might need to pull that slightly aside just to get that last one in. Now I want this square to be seamless, and what do I mean by that? Let's get one. I'm put them too far away. So each corner looks identical. You can't see where my chain to go up to the next row is. They all look absolutely the same, and that's what I want to do. So how I'm going to achieve that is by, instead of doing a chain and slip stitching into this stitch here, let me just turn my light down, it seems to be a bit bright. That's better. I'm going to just I'm going to go through 2 of the loops like that with my hook. Oh, I don't think I got into there then. Always easier when you're not on camera. So I'm going to go into there and I'm going to yarn, that's the tail, so let's move that out of the way. I'm going to yarn over and pull through, but instead of going through both, I'm going to now yarn over, so it's left this gap the same size. It is a little more difficult to see it, but there it is. There's my 3, and so bear with me, I'm just going to pause the video because it's really hot and I just need to wipe my hook because it's starting to squeak. Sorry about that. It was I hate it when it squeaks. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get rid of this little tail at the back because it keeps flapping in the way and I don't want it to confuse anything. So that's now gone and out of the way. So now what I'm going to show you is, where's my finished one? I'll put it over there again. So each colour has 2 rows and you can see that. So there's the first one and there's the second. And when you get the first of the colours, there's 2, and there's 2 for this one and 2 for the black, and I'll put that over there in case I need it again. So instead of changing colour, I'm just going to continue in this colour. So I'm going to chain 2, and this is where you have to kind of have your wits about you. There's your chain space, there's 1, 2, and these are your 2 chains, so that's 3. So this is your gap. I'm going to yarn over, go into that gap, and I'm going to do 2 of my UK treble or US double in that space because I want to make half of a corner. That's how we're going to make it seamless. So I'm going to go all the way around now and come back and finish that corner. So this is where it gets different. So I'm not going to do a chain. I'm just going to yarn over and go into my next chain space and do a full corner. So I'm going to make my 3, my cluster of 3, and I'm going to chain 1 and do another 3 in that same space, and it will make the corner. There we are. So I'm going to go into this next space and do exactly the same, make a full corner. So that's 3, 1 chain and another 3. So I need to pull out some yarn, it's getting a little tight. Okay, so I've done my 3, do my chain and 3 more. Okay, so now you can see we're going around corners. So there's my next one. I'm going to do a full corner in there. One chain. Finish my corner off. So now there's one corner, 2 and 3, and this is the one we need to finish. So I'm going to go into that same space and do my next cluster of 3. And I'm going to join this one exactly the same way by by going into this top chain by 2 loops and just pulling through 1 loop. And I'm going to leave those 2 on my hook, and I'm going to snip off my ivory colour. Just going to remove that yarn out of the way, and I'm going to join my light pink, because as you know I start with the lighter colour first and then go on to the darker or brighter colour. So this one, I'm just going to join it. Let's pull out a little yarn. I'm trying to get tangled up already. It's not good, is it? So I'm going to hold on to this at the back and just bring my yarn through like that, and I'm going to tie this off. And there are some people who don't like that, don't like the tying off, but I'd rather be secure, especially as with this I can't really work over my tails at the moment because I'm doing the seamless join, and that tends to make it where you don't go over so much of the tails at the corner. So now you need to keep your wits about you again, because this gap isn't very big. So you got 1 2 3 1 2 3. There is your space. So I'm going to insert my hook into that space, and the reason being, I'll show you. I'm just going to make that loop a little larger so I don't lose it. Now at the bottom here the colour is all ivory, and if I do my first 2 chain and then I do 2 treble crochets, that's the UK treble, then this part here, this little part, will form a little line, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I don't like it. So what I need to do then is where's my third one? 1 2 3 1 2 3. It's actually there. So I'm going to put my hook into that gap and I'm going to pull up another loop. So I've got 2 on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through them and do my second chain. And now I'm going to complete my half a corner by going into that same space and doing my 2 stitches. Okay, so here we are. Now this is where it gets different. So this is my space I'm going to work in now. So I'm going to do 1 UK treble or US double crochet in there. And now this is where we get that really cute kind of line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what is called a double treble back post stitch. I always get confused with front post stitch. Into the row below, and in the US it will obviously be a double, or I think it's actually called a treble crochet, sorry. So I'm going to yarn over twice, and I'm going to go to the row below, and I'm going to go into this post here. So there's my first stitch, second and third. I'm going to go behind that one, come out the other side. I'm going to yarn over and pull up. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Now it's quite important that you pull up, because otherwise you'll get the effect. It always does pull in slightly, but you'll get this effect. And so you need to pull up. And then, because that's the second stitch, there's the first one, there's the second, you need to do your third. So the third one is exactly the same as normal by going into the usual space. So that long stitch is in the middle of your 2 normal ones. And then we're just going to do a corner, and we're going to complete that as normal. The corners are always just completed as normal. I know it seems confusing. I'll show you again on the next one. I need to pull out some yarn. Okay, so we've gone around the corner, and we need to do that again. So we're going to do 1 normal UK treble and 1 double treble, or a treble crochet, but we're going to go round that post to complete it. We're going to yarn over and pull it right up so it's elongated, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So that's the second stitch, and the third, if you pull that aside, you can see the gap where you need to go and complete your third stitch. It seems confusing at first, but you'll get the hang of it. So now the corner is as normal. Again, if I go ahead of you at any time, just pause it and catch up with me. So that's my corner. And here we go again. There's our space. 1 normal stitch, yarn over twice, find the row beneath and go around that stitch, yarn over and pull it up, and then we pull through 2, through 2, through 2, and then we pull it aside, and there is our space for our last stitch. And then we're going to do the corner. Pull more yarn. It's getting wound around my tripod. It's my light tripod. Okay, so just complete that. I'll do that stitch again. I didn't like that one. So we just complete the corner as normal. And we're on our last side and our corner. Okay, so as before, 1 normal stitch, yarn over twice, go to the row below and around that middle one, that middle post, yarn over and pull it up, through 2, through 2, through 2, pull it aside if you have to see where you've got to go, and you just go 1 more to complete the 3. Now we're back at the corner, so again we need to complete that corner by doing our last 3 in that same space as the corner. and we're going to join that top chain there with our UK double or US single crochet, and there's our gap there. We're going to chain 2. We don't need to go into the stitch this time, same colour, so it won't make any difference. And we're going to complete the last part of that corner. So that's the little part of the corner. I'm just going to pull some more yarn. It's getting stuck. So it does look a little bit baggy, but I wouldn't worry about that. It works its way. It works out. So now we've got more stitches to do our posts on. So we're going to go into this gap here with our first stitch, and we're going to yarn over twice, and we're going to drop to the row below, and we're going to go, there's the first one, second one, third one. I'm going to go around that middle one again. I'm going to yarn over and pull it up, and we're going to do our long stitch, and then pull that aside if you have to find your space to do your third. Okay, and we're going to go into this one as you would normally with one stitch, yarn over twice, drop to the row below in that center one, around that post, yarn over and pull it up, and complete our long stitch. Pull it aside, there's our space to do our last one. So now we've got this row, and we're going to do the corner as normal. This is our last light pink round. I'm going to repeat what we did on that side, and I'll show you one more side. So we're going to go and do one normal stitch in the space that we would normally work in for a granny square, and we're going to yarn over twice, row below, go around that center, and we're going to pull up and complete our US treble or our UK double treble, and then we're going to complete it with one more stitch there, and then we're going to go into this gap and do exactly the same thing into the center of the row below, pull it up, finish our long stitch, and then if you can't see it, you just pull it aside, and there's the space, and we're back at the corner. So we're just going to do that again, complete our corner, and do this side, complete our corner, and I will meet up with you when you get back to here. And don't be confused when you get along here. It doesn't look, you've got to kind of keep your wits about you so you don't just keep going round or something. But I'll meet up with you when you get back to the second half of that first corner. I've made it all the way back, so I'm going to do the last part of my corner, and you can see where that's going into. So I'm just going to do my last 3 UK trebles or US doubles in that space, and again I'm going to pick up those not so easy when you've got a camera in the way, and just going to cut that yarn off because that's my second row of the pink. And now I'm going, sorry, nearly knocked my camera over, and I'm going to go for this pink, and pull out some yarn, and I'm going to join that one. So just going to hold on to that colour at the back there so it doesn't become like a very long loop. Turn that over and just give that a tie off. Unfortunately, these you have no choice but to sew the ends in. It's not a kind of a normal scenario where you can work over the ends, but having a seamless, I think it's better to have it seamless than work over the ends. You can do it a little bit to a certain extent. So there is the gap. It kind of is slightly back on yourself. So there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's there. And because we've changed colour, I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull up a loop. So my first chain would be through 2, and there's my second of my chains. So I can go over my tail for the next 2 stitches, but it's obviously it's not enough to be enough, if you know what I mean. Still got to sew them in, sadly. So there's my half of my corner. I'll just tuck those out the way. So now we're going to carry on as we did before. So this is our first space here. So move those corners out the way, sorry, those ends out the way, tails, and do our first stitch, yarn over twice, go to the row below and go around that center, pull it up and do our long stitch, and then back into that same space there to complete our 3. And then we go to our next space along, and that one, because we now have got 3, has this one below it, and that's fine. We just do our first one, yarn over twice. Now we're going to go into that one, so we're going to go back in to that long stitch, pull up and complete our stitch. I've got squeaky hook again, need to wipe it off. So then we pull it aside and you can see there's our gap. Can be confusing to see, and now we're into this space, but you can see there's our 3 there. So we're going to do yarn over twice. In this one, drop down to the next row, go through that center, pull it up, complete our stitch. I'll be glad when I can wipe it. I tell you, I hate it when it starts to squeak. The joys of doing crochet in the summer. So that's what it's now looking like, and we're up at our first corner, and that's just the same as all of our other corners and normal corner. And that's how we're going to carry on around this square, but instead of having our 2 sides, we've now got 3 sides, and that middle one you'll be going round the raised stitch from the previous round, this one. So at the moment we're in this one, and so we've got a nice flat corner underneath. So we do a normal stitch, yarn over twice, find the center one of the one below and pull it up. Always pull it up a little bit, because otherwise it will dip. You don't want that. There we are. Don't know where my yarn has got to. I just need to pull some more out. Whoops. Pull the wrong end. Okay. So this is our gap this time. I did used to, at one point, I did some chains between them so that they were easy to see, but it makes it too holy. So now we're going to go, the centre of the one below is this elongated stitch, so that's one we're going into. Pull it up and then pull that aside and go in to complete our 3, our third stitch. So that's that side, and we've got one more there, one more space. It actually is much easier to see when you have it in front of you. So we're going to go to the row below, to that center one, because it's a corner, and pull it up and complete our stitch. And then our last one in that same space, and then we're back at the corner again. So that's what this round looks like, and you can see it's kind of coming around that corner nicely. So I'm going to pause the video, and that will give me a chance to wipe this hook again, and I'm going to carry on with my normal corner and my 3 sides, and remember that one will be in the raised stitch. We'll go around that post, and I shall catch up with you when I get back to finish this corner. Okay, so I made it all the way back to finish off the 3 of my corner. And now every row that we do is just following on in the same way as all of our previous. So I'm just going to, obviously I'm not changing colour, so I'm just going to do my 2 chain and my 2 stitches into my corner to make my half a corner. And now I'm going to go along this side, and I just need to pull out a bit more yarn than that, sorry, just bear with me a second. So yeah, going along this corner, you have more sides to work in. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we'll do now is go into our first one, and you'll be going into this. In our second one, you'll be going into the one below. On each round, each of these ones, it will be going into this one. And on this one it will be going into this one, and then when we get to this one you'll be going into always a kind of a fresh one, if you like, at the corners. So that's all we're going to do, just completely carry on as we have been, nothing different. So we'll do one side together, and don't forget, always pull up. Don't have to pull up a ridiculous amount, just enough to make it the same kind of height. And then in our next one, yarn round 2. So now we're going to go into the raised stitch, pull it up, and then complete our sorry, I'm a bit croaky, I'm getting dry. And then into our next side, so our next gap should I say, and then into this raised one, finish our 3. You can see it does pull down a bit even though you do pull up. It's just the kind of stitch you're doing really. And this one is just a nice flat one because we're back at the previous corner. And our last one in there, and then we're back at the corners, which we'll do as a normal one. Again, if I go way ahead of you, just pause me and catch up. But this is all very similar now. We're just repeating what we've done. So there we are. That's how it's looking now on our last dark pink round. And we're going into this one next. We're going into this gap, and so we'll go into this one here, and then in our next gap we'll be going into this raised one because it's always the center one of the row beneath the row you're working on. So that's this one, and then that is this one, and then when you get back to the corner it will be into this one because it's always the row beneath. So I'm going to pause this then, and I will carry on working round, catch up with you when I get back to the start. Okay, so I've made it all the way back. Going to complete my second part of the corner. and then, oops, sorry about that, change colours to my final colour, which in my case is black. Obviously you can be making this in whichever colour scheme that you want. I chose black. So then I'm just going to snip off my pink. Try and get hold of that because otherwise it will tangle on the floor. Let's move that out of the way. And I get my last colour, which is my black. If I can find the end. It is. And pull out some yarn before I start. Make it easier. So really, I'm sure you've got the hang of these rounds now. Just going to hold on to that while I join my last colour. And give that a little tie off just to keep it nice and snug. And that's what it looks like at the back, all these squares. Okay, so let's drop those tails out of the way. Find them. This wants to tangle. So just keeping the right space. There it is. There's 1, 2, 3 that side. 1, 2, 3 that side. I'm going to insert and pull up my new colour and make my chain. And then do my next 2 UK trebles. Now this one will be difficult to see because black is hard to show, but it's exactly the same as all the other rounds that we've done so far. You're now working in these gaps and you'll be going in the row beneath, which is this one. So I'm going to do my first normal stitch, yarn over twice and go into this stitch. Don't forget to pull up and finish my long stitch and my last one in the same gap, just like that. And then so now we're going to be going in this one and we'll go into this stitch here because it's the center one below. We're going in here and into this one, the center one below that, again here with the center one below it, and then we'll go into our last one there and it'll be a nice flat one until we get to the corner. So that's all we're going to do, is exactly the same as we have done on every round so far. So just pick up our long stitch and pull up to complete our long one, and then finish our third stitch. We're going to go in each of our ones that I showed you. It's getting tangled, sorry. And then we got into that one. And that's how it's going to look. We're going to do 2 rounds with our black. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to do my 2 rounds with the black because it's exactly the same as the other colours, just exactly the same. But you will need to keep your eyes open when you're working with the black because it's harder to see, but when you've got it in front of you it's much easier than looking at mine, if you like. But the next round that you when you work through, obviously you won't need to pull up 2 loops for your corner ones because you're not going to be changing colour. And then of course it's up to you if you wanted to do 2 rows with your last colour or if you wanted to do more. And if you wanted to, you could just carry on and do 1 big square. But that's that's how it's going to look. So I'm going to pause it and I'm going to do my 2 black rows, because I don't think you need me to show you the last one again, because it is just exactly the same. But you will be going, it's hard to show you, but you will be going through these center one should be going through this one as normal, and then you'd be just picking up in between, you'd be picking up this one, picking up this one and this one. So then that's it. And if you went further and did another row, it would obviously be picking up these ones. That's what I meant to say. So I'm only doing 2 rows of black, because when I put them together it's 4. That's more than enough. But if you could do, if you wanted to, just carry on, or you could just carry on lots and lots of colours and just, but you can see it does pull in, so you do have to pull up your stitches. So I'm going to pause it then, and I will come back to you when I've done my 2 rows in my black. So I've almost made it all the way around. I've got one more side to do. So I've kind of started it, and I just got a little bit bored with doing it all on my own, so I figured I'd come back and show you my last black round, part of it anyway. It's hard to sort of video white, creams and blacks. It's tends to not show you the detail. And it doesn't help when your hook gets a bit sticky. But we're nearly there. Hope you've not found it too difficult. I really do need to wipe this hook again. Makes it tighter than it needs to be. Almost there now. Last one. Go into the centre of that one. It's too hot for this, really. Okay, finish the last part of my corner. And on the last part, I don't finish it the same way, because it is the end. I'll do it as a normal chain, and I'll just go into that. I'll just go into it like that, because it's too difficult to see. On the black, end off my colour, and to end off I just do a chain, cinch it down and pull it through, and there we have it. And as you can see, even by pulling up, it does tend to dip in just a little bit. It's not too bad. It is actually quite straight, but that's what used to be called my twisted granny, but is actually the Mosaic Granny. And you can just either carry on and make a big blanket, but obviously you will need a lot of colour in the end, a lot of yarn, or just make squares. And you can do a blanket with all one colour scheme, or like mine with your scrap yarns, because when you've done a project you always end up with scraps, and it's a good scrap buster project. So thank you so much for watching, and as I said, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and check out my other videos. So until next time, bye bye for now.